All right, folks, welcome to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Brock and Ellis, aka the Uptown Point Guard, and I am Purple Haze, your master of ceremonies based in the dirty, dirty South down here in ATL Shouty. All right, Brock, let's get into it, man. A rough weekend. The economic boycott yesterday, Zelenskyy at the White House. What an international, global embarrassment our top two elected officials are. These guys are clowns, and we knew that. It overshadowed the economic boycott because I'm anxious to see how many people really, participated in it. But let's talk about what's on your mind because you got a couple of bones to pick right quick.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot today, Mark. I mean, we could talk Zelensky. I feel like the entire nation and and really the world has talked about that shit show of a meeting or the performance art that went on in the Oval Office. That's been like the topic du jour for the last maybe 12, 16 hours, 12 hours ago since it happened.
Right.
So we can give this saying anger and this saying frustration, but I feel like it's been vented by millions now around the world. I think the almost the funniest aspect it was the Marco Rubio, like trying to basically melt into the couch there in embarrassing and incredible shrinking man, our Secretary of State. But beyond and unfortunately the news cycle overwhelmed the economic blackout, so we don't know what was learned. Questions weren't asked. I don't think anyone spent any time digging in on it because they had the Trump 2.0 sensational story in front of them. But the outside of that, what has been interesting in the last 24 hours is more white anger and rage going on throughout the country, particularly the red states, whether it be in Texas. The senator in Kansas had a comical um, town hall where he had to basically just walk out on his own town hall when he was questioned
Right.
about why so many veterans are getting fired with the federal layoffs, because that's
Right.
a high propensity of war veterans that get those jobs. He had no answer
Mm.
and literally just walked out of the room. Nice to be a
Right.
senator, right? You got 6 years to play with, right? But then there was also down in Texas, Republican congressman basically just shouted over and out of the room. I thought the message was don't hold these anymore, but I think a couple of these yahoos didn't get the message, held them, and were called out and look
Right.
like buffoons. But will it make them change any of their actions? Because the election's not for 20 or so months for
Right.
them.
Right. And the bottom line, Brock, they're too afraid, right? But hold it, but now what are you afraid of? Right? The very people that you should be afraid of are now mad at you
Yeah.
because you're not protecting them. Right? This
Well,
is the MAGA crowd.
are the representatives more afraid of Trump, or are they more afraid of their constituents?
Right.
As of right now, they're all more afraid of Trump and these mythical death threats that they're getting, and the family and all the horse shit they put in. But really, they're too cowardly. We talk political courage to even move out of lockstep, right? They're not even none of the very few of them are even voted against any of the nominees. They're certainly not voting against any of the budget stuff, right? They are in total lockstep. So they're not afraid of their constituents yet.
Yeah, true that. So, what's going to make them afraid? Does it have to be someone in their house getting laid off? Does it have to be services? Oh, by the way, you know, one thing we always took for granted is the weather report. And now it's going to be much less accurate. So now we have those layoffs. So now let's talk about the impact of that because it's more than just whether or not to wear a sweater to work tomorrow, right? This affects our air travel. This affects like you go to the Midwest right now in the Denver and the Rockies area, all that trucking and transportation through I-70 up over and through the mountains, and we're not going to be able to get accurate weather reports. How many lives are going to be impacted in the red states like Florida,
How many
Georgia,
people
South
get out?
Carolina?
How many people get out on a boat because that's a part of their economics? And
Right,
now they're not going. They're not going to. We've gotten so good science, math, so good at predicting and understanding what's going on out there. It just day to day saves lives, right? Because
Yep.
better decisions are being made. Obviously, all the hurricanes are more powerful because
Right.
the water's warmer. So now everything's a category 4 and category 5. So knowing and having a minute by minute tracking of where we need to, people need to be hightailing it out of, danger zones, that goes into decline. And we're back, we're taking steps backwards. And now you as a citizen are kind of flying blind again when a storm's coming.
Right.
Used to have great, close to not perfect, but very good information, to going back to having maybe a coin toss on how good the information is. Red
Right.
states disproportionately will be impacted by this because of the hurricane patterns. But the red states all voted
For
for this.
Trump. Yep. Yep. They asked for it. They asked for it. And now think about just the ripple effect, brah. This is homeowners insurance. These are people that are going to lose their homes and have no recourse to recoup their investment. Florida, Los Angeles. Think about all those people who lost their homes 2 weeks after their homeowners insurance was yanked. Right? This is going to affect the banking industry. You're not going to be able to get a
Yeah.
mortgage if you can't go out there.
How do you build back? How do you
Right,
build back?
right. The only the very wealthy will be able to do it. Right,
And
and
here
then
we
they're,
go
and
again.
they're going to want to do
Yep.
somewhere else.
Who are the winners? Who buys up the shit? Who buys up the property? Who rebuilds and then they rent it out to you, right?
Yep,
Then you're screwed. So there's the American dream in decline.
yep,
Um, yet again, it was already getting too expensive, but now just from a simple decision like cutting huge, massive number of personnel in what is it, the NOAA,
yep.
it changes, it
Noah.
helps change the dynamic for people's day-to-day lives, and that's what they voted for. And oh, by the way, secondarily, we don't want FEMA anymore. So now after this shit happens, we don't want
No one to
a
call.
concentrated, organized effort to actually help people get back on their feet, first survive and then get back on their feet. We don't want that either. So we
Right,
don't want you to know the shit's coming. We don't want you to be able to afford it after it fucking happens. And there's going to be nothing in place to help you get back on your feet. And
right.
that's Project 2025. And that's what the American people
Voted for.
voted for.
Yep, by 2 million votes. Two
But
million votes.
those red states who are disproportionately impacted voted in lockstep. They've been for 50 years now. But yeah, they
Right,
loved it. They were championing it. They're not even areas where anyone even goes and talks to them about the issues because everyone knows what way they're going to vote.
right, right. And it's because of the others, right? But you asked the people about the others up in Appalachia, right after those bad storms they had last year. I mean, think about that. What was that, last October? And those folks were devastated. And then there were all the rumors that, of course, the Trump regime started about the lack of government assistance. The government assistance was there. There was never not a federal response from FEMA to help those people rebuild. And now we're getting rid of that. But Brock, what is the strategy behind this? Like, it's just madness for madness's sake. Like, how does this improve our daily lives? All these massive cuts at Social Security,
Well, no,
massive
it's
cuts at how does this help us?
maybe because Musk's Starlink then has a play, and things, shit
Oh,
goes wrong, and then somehow he and or some of the other tech bros have a way to step into the breach, and then now that we have to privatize some of these things, and now more money flows to the private sector because we shrunk back the government. Maybe it's just some of it's haphazard, and cuts are cuts, and everything goes, and we just need to cut the federal government. They're all lazy and they don't do shit for us, and we need to save money so that we can have, tax cuts for, the wealthiest 1%. Maybe it's as
right.
simple as what sits right in front of us. White anger boiled up again. It was nice to see A bunch of protests up in Vermont with JD Vance and his family trying to go on a nice little ski trip vacation. Need 32
Already?
days in, and JD Vance is already on vacation. Seemed a little quick when everyone is being in the federal government being told that they don't work hard enough and they need to get fired because their
Not a
performance is subpar.
trip.
But JD's on vacation already. But it was good to see white people out there, white
Yep.
people in New York at the Tesla chanting Zelensky's a
It's
hero. So you're seeing pockets of sporadic anger boiling up. It hasn't moved into a, sort of a concentrated effort yet.
Rock, we
But
can't keep this up for another. I mean, I'm concerned about the Republican, what it looks like 30 days from now. What's it going to look like in 2 years? What's it going to look like in 4 years? I mean, we can't withstand. The courts are doing everything they can. And there was a ruling that came out, a federal judge, and I can't forget what they it might have been Rhode Island. A federal judge came out and said that, these firings are likely illegal. So that's good
Mhm,
news. But,
mhm.
we're going to need more of white America to stand up and to say, look, this is unacceptable. It's untenable. We cannot continue on this path, and we will not continue on this path. Remember, Brock, just a few months ago, look at November, look at October. 4 years of growth from Joe Biden. You've said it numerous times on the program. Our economy was the envy of the world going into the November election, and we voted to destroy it because we couldn't see a black woman in charge, couldn't see a woman of color in charge. And that just blows me away. 79 million Americans said, nah, the message in Springfield, Ohio that they're eating the cats and dogs is a much better message than, you'll help me buy my first house. Like
Yeah, exactly.
what kids are going to be able to buy a home in the state of Florida? Right?
Yeah.
Now, when you can't get a mortgage, right? But what are banks going to do? Are we gonna be plunged into a depression? Is that the kind of suffering Elon Musk was talking about? Or does he have robots lined up for each one of these offices so he can go from $8 million a day to maybe $80 million a day that they're
Yeah,
paying
we're
him?
almost certainly going to go into a recession. But it burns my ass a little bit, Mark. And I know the resistance needs everyone, and we need a whole
Right,
bunch of MAGA voters to get frustrated in Kansas and yell at their senator until he walks out of the room because he can't take the fire, and then they walk away just angry and burning. Right? Will they ever
right,
vote against them? Possibly. So,
right,
and then you see the story in the story of the woman who voted because she believed that Trump was going to make IVF free. And then you see the other people coming on social media and saying they made a mistake. And I guess it's good to see that some of these folks who the thought was, oh, they were in a cult, are peeling away and
right,
seeing the error of their ways, some even apologizing. However, none of them will go that next step of
right.
self-analysis and look in the mirror and go, why did I vote that way?
Can you tell
Why?
me? Can you
No.
answer
So
that
now
for
they'll
me?
complain that vets are getting laid off, or my IVF, or I got tricked, or I got fooled, or I got fired, and I never thought I would get fired. And oh, my drug prices have gone up, and oh, my mother's Medicaid is a problem, right? All these white people, but none of them will sit there and go, but wait, one of the women wrote even like she was on board with MAGA. I'm like, so you're on board with the racism. You're on board with the homophobia. You're on board with the xenophobia, right? You're on board with just the denigration of all parts of society. Brown people getting sent to Gitmo. You're on board with that. You're on
Right,
board with women losing their bodily autonomy, right?
right,
You're on board with the anti-vaxxers. You're on board with all that.
right,
But now you're upset because oh you didn't understand one thing or you lost your job or now it's affecting you and you still can only focus on the one thing that affects you. There's no self-realization that you inherited and supported all those shitty qualities. Like there's no self-realization or self-reflection. It's just
But,
I
but
got screwed, now I'm mad. So I'll take them on our side. I'll take the anger because maybe it'll get Trump out of there quicker. But I don't think we come out in a better place if people haven't
right.
learned fucking shit along the way.
But Brock, tell me what is the reason they can't get out of their own way? Why is okay? White America is set up for success. I always used to tell my friends, some of the guys we grew up with, hey, if you're white and you're not killing it, there's something wrong. That's on you, right? You know, I mean, I just looked at the trajectory of some of the guys that we grew up with, like guys that were like the last of the great C plus students that are millionaires now, Mil millionaires, Brock, like regular white dudes, mediocre at best, and they're crushing it, right? Living good lives, retiring early. Like how does like I don't like to try to count other people's chips, but how the hell they do it? You know what I mean? How the hell did you get so lucky to get that opportunity? To have somebody give you 150K and say, hey, if you stay 5 years at our, financial services firm, you don't have to pay it back. How about that? You go build a house up in one of the swankiest, counties, one of the richest counties in America. Next thing you know, your home appraises, for 499 before you move in it. You sell it 7, 8, 9, 10 years later for $1 million. Right? It all started with a $1,500 construction loan. That's a true story, right? From a guy who was like a really good C plus student, got sent home after his freshman year in college.
Well, I mean, I think it's just the expectation I mean, I guess, that's the American dream that everyone talks about,
Right.
that maybe,
It's only available to some Americans.
only available to some, and now it's going to be available to less because it's now
Right.
being pulled away from people, and it's such a wake-up call. I mean, I literally don't understand why Project 2025 didn't, insulate more white people
I
with
don't
with
get
all
it.
these cuts and doji, and just because if they had just insulated and been, you know, protected, the protected class, like they wouldn't have
Right.
as many upset, you know,
Right.
yahoos at these town halls.
Right.
So I'm almost surprised, but maybe the cuts are so deep that it got to everyone. Maybe that was the
And,
issue, that they were
you
just
know,
so deep. You could only cut so many DEI hires, right? Because what they found was there weren't that many of them. It's like, oh shit, we only cut like 1% of the employees. That didn't
right.
work.
So Brock, I know we're tight for time today, but let me ask you this question. Okay, can upset white America get past the racism and the bigotry to unify with the Hispanic community that couldn't get past their racism and bigotry, right? Because they were blaming others. They just thought it wouldn't happen to them as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
Not
not going
that
to happen to
first angry,
me.
not the angry group that's in Kansas yelling at their senator. Like, I don't
Right,
think they're seeing any solidarity amongst any other races, right? They're just
right.
focused on it. It's impacted them, and now they're pissed. So they
Pissed,
can be
right,
kind of a part of the mob, but I don't see them in the foxhole, arm in arm, touting a multicultural, multiracial, society. I
right,
still don't think that they've changed their view of the way society should work. I think they're
right.
just upset that society's not working for them. So
Exactly.
we need to go back to the way it was. I don't see them progressive in any way, shape, or form.
That's
But I think, the enemy of your enemy is your friend, right? So we're
right,
gonna take them for now. We're
right,
gonna take them. We're gonna take that angry mob because we know how violent they can get, right? So they can
right,
be helpful in some situations, right?
right,
Because they go from 0 to 50 real quick because
right.
they don't think
And they're
anything
not going
should
to
ever
get
get.
shot on the steps of the
Yeah, they're
Capitol.
not, certainly won't be the first one shot.
Hey, the
Yeah.
black and brown
So
folks
I
better
don't think
stay
they're
back.
part of the coalition. The coalition still has to come from the left. It still has to be what I'd say, like, let's call them fair-minded white
Hmm.
people,
Right,
who see the world differently, and want to see America differently, and are more pro-immigrant, and I think, kind of realistic white
right,
people that that have a vision of the country that's a better place, I think are the
Right.
ones that can ultimately unify. But I think, let's throw me in that bucket, right? I
Right.
think we're, it's going to take a lot to get us out there on the streets because we live comfortable lives. And now we're saying, okay, let's get uncomfortable, right?
Right.
Let's get out there and have like, rubber pellets shot at us and tear gas. You think I haven't had fucking tear gas thrown at me, right? Me
So
and a lot of other people.
right. So let's think about it though, Brock. We saw Rodney King get beat to within an inch of his life on television,
Hmm.
right? We counted the baton strikes. We saw
Hmm.
George Floyd die some almost 30 years later
Hmm.
at the hands of police officers and police brutality. Now, black people have been sounding the alarm for years about police brutality. We know there are a whole bunch of other Rodney Kings and George Floyds who weren't caught on video.
Hmm.
And look how much progress we did not make from one event to the other. So
Hmm.
now we say, okay, are we going to go out here and get beat, with batons, dogs, fire hoses, to march arm in arm with white America, who has not cared about our plight
Hmm.
when we've seen the worst acts of violence perpetrated against us? I
Hmm.
think that's the hill that black folks have to get over, right? It's a very similar climb to what those white folks in Kansas are feeling. It's just for different reasons.
Hmm.
We have to both communities have to look deep and introspectively to find out, okay, am I at my breaking point? Of course, Black America is. But when white America gets there, we'll probably finally have some progress.
And it's interesting, things like the overall office shit show sort of
Right.
bond everyone together because everyone, those are the types of things that, I think, well, correct me if I'm wrong, it's sort of everyone sees
Oh,
white
yeah.
and black and Latino, sort of everyone sees it the same way. It's a
Right.
bunch of assholes putting on like some performance for our enemy
Right.
against what is clearly a heroic personality,
No
right?
doubt.
Like
No
a
doubt.
courageous leader who's doing everything that we would be so proud of as Americans, right?
Right.
He's a wartime leader when he's getting questions about what he's fucking wearing,
Caring.
right?
Right.
When he's wearing like
The suit.
more like wartime garb. He's not suit and tying it because
Got to
he's
be
in
ready.
solidarity with his people. So yeah, the things like, but I've always said I didn't think it was international affairs that was going to bring us together because it's such a internal American thing to get the races and cultures together to fight white supremacy. But I
Right.
think it helped because I think it helped when we have these externalities, external events like the Oval
Right.
Office event, where we can all see it the same way. Because then,
Right.
a black guy and a white guy can see each other in the street and go, "What? That was fucking
Agree. Yeah.
ridiculous."
Right. Right. So yeah, man, we got to get on the same page sooner rather than later. All right, my friend, I will see you next time. Let's do it again real soon. I feel so much better after these.
I feel better, but I feel like once again America took a step backwards
No
in the
doubt.
last 24 hours, not a step forward. So I guess I feel better that we we got some things off of our chest. But
Right.
like you said, we can't wait to the midterms or
No.
4 years for the hopeful next election. Shit's
No.
unraveling too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is more of a discussion about how is black and white America right going to get together
Right.
and get our asses on the street together because I think we've already learned white supremacy's not really beneficial to too
Right.
many people.
Too many people.
It's a
Right.
small slice of people that are benefiting from this. The rest
Right.
of us
Right.
are in decline.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, my friend.
All
That's
right.
it for Two Men in Black and White, an honest discussion. We'll have another one real soon. All right, my friend. Take it easy.
All right, Mark. Take care. Joy.
See.
Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.